Now go and pick up the cake and make sure that even if it's white on the outside, that it's chocolate on the inside, okay? I don't want a repeat of last year where it was yellow on the inside, because you know what happened last year, yes. And make sure the baker actually made it gluten-free. Lovely little joke of my mother's making me allergic to the thing she's goddess of, but it's got to be gluten-free. It's got to be chocolate. If it's neither of those, you're going to be spit roasted, okay? Good. Hello. Hello, how are you? It's a big day today. It's a big day because today is my birthday. Yeah, it is. It's my birthday. And because it's my birthday, we're going to do my favourite play. I know I told you I was going to do the Henrys, but it's my birthday. So we're doing my favourite play. Before we get to that, remember, of course, there's our shop. Have to do that. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, like that. It's in the shop. Okay. My favourite play. I got them working on this. I've had them working on this for months. I got them started working on this when we had a little friend down so they could get good at it. And they've been rehearsing for months. So the Milwaukee Family Players did a really good job on this. Is my favourite play. Is one with a queen in it. Can you guess? I've got my crown on. It's one of only 3 plays with a woman in the title. We've done Romeo and Juliet, and no one's favourite play is Troilus and Cressida. Yeah, I know. Antony and Cleopatra. I've been saving Antony and Cleopatra for a long time. And now, since it's my birthday, we're doing Antony and Cleopatra. It's got a queen in it. So, Antony and Cleopatra is a great play. It's like Romeo and Juliet, but Romeo and Juliet for adults instead of stupid teenagers. Antony and Cleopatra. So, all of this, just before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, all of this starts out after the death of Julius Caesar and after the events of Julius Caesar. To fully understand this play, you actually need to look at 3 different things, 3 different plays, or if you want to be really fun, 3 different actual forms of theatre, because you can start with Handel's Julia Cesare in Egitto, or if you're not feeling that brave, you can start with George Bernard Shaw's Caesar and Cleopatra, then move on to Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, and then finally you get to Antony and Cleopatra, which brings us all the way up to date. Because actually there are things in this play that are started in Julia Cesare in Egitto or Caesar and Cleopatra. So, we are in the court of Alexandria, and 2 messengers are waiting to see, wanting to give messages to Antony. And Antony has been absent from Rome. He's been ruling the eastern parts of the empire, and he has had a major power base in Egypt. Of course, everyone is saying that the reason why he's in Egypt is because he is in the thrall of Egypt's beautiful, intelligent, just all-round wonderful queen. Okay, they don't say that. They talk more about her being a whore. But, no, they're wonderful, sparkling, witty, intelligent, beautiful, politically astute queen, Cleopatra. The messengers come, and Antony comes out but doesn't really pay them that much attention, and Antony and Cleopatra both come out and then leave again because they're not really wanting to hear from messengers. A soothsayer comes and tells the fortunes of the two maids of Cleopatra, her handmaidens, and both their fortunes are alike, which seems to be quite odd to both Charmian. Charmian is a great character, and Iris. Iris is a little character, but Charmian is a great character as well. You do not, under any circumstance, dismiss these major Egyptian ladies. So they're not terribly impressed. Antony does come and see the messengers, and they tell him that his brother has been defeated in wars that he's made against Octavian, and so his wife, Fulvia, and that Fulvia is dead. Oh, and Octavian wants to see him in Rome. Yeah. But Fulvia is dead. And when Cleopatra comes out again, she's in a bit of a mood because Antony had left her without, after, it's like, well, I thought we weren't, but okay. Cleopatra is, she can be this. She's a little bit insecure whenever anything comes from Rome because, they have a tendency to tug on the leash and Antony has to go. So she's not terribly happy about him ever having to go back to Rome because his wife's back there. She's got rid of 2 husbands already. She doesn't have a husband. She has an Antony, just as she had a Caesar. And frankly, brother husbands just don't cut it. She had Caesar kill one, and then she bumped off the other one herself. And people say this makes her evil. Makes her no different to any of the men who ruled comparable countries at her time. She was just a woman doing it. Anyway, she's in a bit of a mood. But Antony says, look, you have nothing to worry about. Fulvia is dead. Oh. That's better. Fulvia's dead. You're not very cut up about it. Shouldn't you be more cut up about your wife being dead? How will it be with us? We're not even your wife, and you're not at all cut up about your wife being dead. Cleopatra, really. So Antony tries to reason with her, but really she's just ultimately, when they get down to it, because he does have to ask, he is a guest of the court, and he does have to ask her permission to leave. So he's got to try and talk to her about this and reassure her. She's just feeling a little insecure. Wouldn't you feel a little insecure? Everybody would feel a little insecure. It's long distance relationships. I mean, she's feeling a bit insecure. She has to stay where she is and rule her kingdom, and he has to go back to Rome. I mean, I completely understand that. You should see the sulks my husband gets into when I have to go upstairs for spring every spring for 3 whole months. He gets into a sulk. It has nothing to do with that. It's just the matter of big gaps in relationships just make that a little bit difficult. And she doesn't always deal with that in the most mature manner, which is fine. My husband doesn't always deal with that in the most mature manner either. Honestly, sits in there and just makes the Milwaukee family players do the same thing over and over and over again while he pats Spot's heads. It happens. It happens. Anyway, where were we? Yes. So Antony eventually gets Cleopatra's permission to leave, and he leaves for Rome. In Rome, Octavian and Lepidus are discussing the issues in terms of when will Antony return and what is going on with Pompey. Now, this is where this harks all the way back to Julia Cesare in Egitto, or Caesar and Cleopatra. They're two different things. They tell the same story. They tell the story of the civil wars of Julius Caesar that are at the backdrop of the play Julius Caesar. This is really a trilogy across a couple of different playwrights. You can watch it as like one gigantic Roman trilogy. Yes. So, I often do. Anyway, Pompey is Pompey the Great's son. Not the same Pompey the Great's son as in Julia Cesare in Egitto, but that's by the by. And he has been causing wars against Rome because he wants stuff for himself, because he's Pompey the Great's son, and his father was killed in Egypt by Cleopatra's brother in order to curry favour with Caesar. So Pompey is being a pain, a right pain, and Octavian is lamenting the fact that Antony, this great and fearsome warrior, is now spending all his time in the indulgent court of Cleopatra and not being a proper man. Posh boy. The posh boy is not enjoying the fact that one of the triumvir has a girlfriend. Honestly, he has a girlfriend too, but we don't meet Livia in this one. Now there would be fun. Livia and Cleopatra. Octavian is lamenting the fact that Antony is not being a bro. He's all sort of like, dude, bros before hoes type of thing. And that's essentially the tone that a lot of people took with Cleopatra, which is really unfortunate, because it's just like a lot of the things we think about Cleopatra are like 2,000 years worth of misogyny. She's not Helen of Troy. She's an astute, intelligent, political creature who spoke multiple languages, and was incapable of entertaining kings and generals and parlaying treaties. This was not a stupid ditzy Helen of Troy. This was a very astute political leader who happened to wear skirts. And give birth to children. I mean, she did all that in 35 years. Impressive. Anyway, back in Egypt, Cleopatra is missing Antony. She's wondering, she's thinking about their relationship, and she's also, Charmian is also teasing her about her affair with Caesar. Was Caesar not as great as Antony? Oh, those were my salad days. I was naive. I did not really fully understand. She was 17. And he was 50. Okay, so, her brother gives Caesar the head of his enemy, and Cleopatra turns up. Cleopatra, 17, you want to come over to my side? What do you think the old whoremonger was going to do? He's Caesar. He slept with everything. But nobody goes and has a big problem with him doing that. Just Antony. Anyway. So there we have that in Egypt. Back in Italy, Pompey is complaining of his position, and he wants to make sure that he gets his back. He wants to make sure that he gets something out of this triumvir that have divided up the world between them. So he is a powerful and angry person. He has control of the seas and has been attacking Roman vessels around Sicily and Sardinia. So he is a very big nuisance, and he has an axe to grind. Back in Rome, we see that Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus are a bit shaky. You know that three-legged stool that we saw at the end of Julius Caesar, where Antony says to Octavian about Lepidus, let the mule carry the gold, and then once we've got the gold to the top of the hill, you ditch the mule. Well, it's a shaky, shaky stool, that one. And cracks that were at the beginning are really starting to turn into big divides. Antony's wife and brother have made wars on Octavian, though Antony swears he has absolutely nothing to do with this. All three members know that this is getting shaky, and if this gets too shaky, the whole world is going to go into war again. There have been cycles of civil wars for a very long time in Rome at this point. So, in order to heal this, because Octavian needs Antony and the full strength of all three of them to face off Pompey, it is suggested by Agrippa that Octavian marry his sister Octavia, don't worry, you won't see a lot of her, to Antony, since he is now a widower. And everyone is sort of like, seriously, you're going to suggest that? What will Cleopatra say? Well, Antony is pragmatic. He is a very pragmatic person. And he says, I am not married. So although he has been in Egypt, enjoying the hospitality of Cleopatra, he will marry Octavia. Now, it's at the end of this little scene when Agrippa asks Enobarbus about Cleopatra, and Enobarbus gives his great speech, which Shakespeare more or less lifted entirely from Pliny, about how Antony met Cleopatra and Cleopatra came sailing down the Nile on a barge. And the barge was gold, and all her handmaidens looked like Nereid. And that all the city of Alexandria, when Cleopatra sailed into the city on her barge, emptied itself out so that Antony was left sitting enthroned in Alexandria, surrounded by nothing, not even the air, for everything came down to Cleopatra. And that Antony sent a message down to Cleopatra saying, I will invite you to dinner. And Cleopatra says, no, I will invite you to dinner. And this dinner is, I believe, the dinner that is very famously painted, where Cleopatra, in order to show off the enormous wealth of Egypt and the worthiness of siding with her in anything, because she is queen of a vast country and a massively wealthy country. Egypt is known throughout Rome as the grain basket of Rome. Egypt has masses and masses of money. So to show off, because she knows that Antony likes making wars and wars are expensive, to show off her great wealth and power, at this dinner, she promises to make this the most expensive dinner that anyone has ever had. And so puts on this great banquet. But it's still not the most expensive dinner. It's still, Romans know how to banquet. And this is the one where, to make it the most expensive dinner, she calls for a goblet of vinegar. And then taking a pearl, the most expensive pearl in the world, dropped the pearl into the vinegar and drank it off. Can't imagine that tasted very good, but proved that she had made the most expensive feast in the entire world. So Cleopatra is true to her word. But that is the feast that Enobarb is talking about. Enobarb, and Agrippa says, oh, well, he'll have to leave her now. It's like, he's not going to leave her. He will never leave her. She is so much more than any other woman could be to Antony. There's no way. This is a political marriage. He is not. This does not mean he leaves Cleopatra. So, back in Egypt, Cleopatra is still waiting on news from Rome, and she hears, much to her horror, that Antony is going to be married to Octavia. She is so angry about this that she attacks the messenger to a point that he's frightened to see her again. Though she does manage to calm down enough that she then sends off, okay, well, I need you to go and find out what Octavia looks like. I'm not going to lose it over somebody who might be a nothing compared to me. And so the messenger leaves. Back in Rome, Antony marries Octavia, and Octavia hopes that she can be a suitable mediator between her brother and her new husband. So everything's all nice and nicey in Rome. Everybody's playing nicely because everybody needs to play nicely because they have a mutual enemy. Wait and see what happens when they no longer have a mutual enemy. So, now that their alliance is cemented through marriage, Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus march on Pompey. Pompey is certain that, he makes a big front of his position, but frankly, Antony's with them. He thought Antony was still in Egypt. Antony is scary. That is why Octavian wanted Antony to be with him still, because he did not want to face Pompey alone. Pompey is enough of a threat without to intimidate Octavian. Octavian is not the great military leader that Antony is, and we saw that in Julius Caesar. So Pompey, seeing that they've got Antony with them, is like, yes, absolutely, I was going to accept your offer of Sardinia and Sicily and keep the oceans free of pirates. Yes, and now everyone must come onto my ship and drink. Pompey invites everybody onto his ship, and they drink and drink and drink and drink, and Pompey revels with the others. They get Lepidus incredibly drunk, and Antony makes him look a fool by talking silly things. Everyone's quite drunk, except that Pompey's right-hand man, one of his allies, says, why don't we just cut the ropes of the ship, drift out, kill them, and then you will be the ruler of the world, because we have the 3 rulers of the world right here. And Pompey's very cross at this, and said, if you had done this and then told me of it afterwards, I would reward you. But knowing about it is just, I can't agree to that. That's dishonourable. If you'd done it and then told me, I'd reward you. But now go drink. I'm not doing that. I'm not double crossing in that way. And he's like, this sucks. I'm not staying with you. I don't think we see him again because the actor gets doubled for other characters, so we never see that character again. Octavian gets very, very pissy because he's a posh boy and he's clearly the only sober one there. He doesn't really do partying. He's a prude, Puritan. You can't tell me that wasn't a little jab at the Puritans. He's boring people who don't know how to party. You see, there isn't really a villain in Antony and Cleopatra, just opposing views. In Egypt, the messenger returns with news that Octavia is short and has a round face and brown hair and is nowhere near Majesty, because Majesty, is she anything like that? Oh no, madam. And this time, instead of being given blows, the messenger is heaped with gold. Good, because Antony cannot possibly love something so dwarfish and so low as Octavia. The only problem is that Octavia is younger. That's a little bit. But no, she's not a great, in the scheme of things, she's not a great threat to Cleopatra's Antony. She and Antony have a history. They have children. This is not to be worried about. In Rome, Octavia is upset by the fact that her brother and her husband are not getting along, and she hopes to be a mediator between the two of them. She hopes to mediate between the two of them. Enobarbus is told that Octavian has attacked Pompey and defeated Pompey in wars, but that he has also arrested and condemned to death Lepidus. So he has now made this wobbly table. He has now made the first, kicked a whole leg out underneath. It now cannot stand. He's now more or less declared war on Antony. He's taken out the weakest member, and now it is on. Octavia asks to be able to be a mediator between Antony and her brother, and Antony is like, yeah, go. I'm not going to hold you. Go. He's like, I'm going back to Egypt. I have a stronghold in Egypt. I have a power base in Egypt. I'm going back there. I have Cleopatra in Egypt. I have no use of Octavia. So this is, by sending Octavia back, he's basically saying, yes, this is war. I'm sending you your sister back. I don't want your sister anymore. Octavia is naive enough to not realize this is what's happening and thinks she's being a good girl and helping her husband and her brother. Poor naive thing. She's just not up to... She's playing checkers while everyone else is playing chess. She's just not... You can sort of see Cleopatra doesn't have any competition in this poor dumb thing. So Octavia returns to Rome. The soothsayer sees Antony and tells Antony that your demon, your spirit is dimmed next to Octavian. It is frightened of his. It is greater than him. You are the greater, but your spirit does not like. You need to get away from him. This is a bit unsettling, but it really confirms everything Antony had already been thinking about, wanting to go back to Egypt. Octavian receives his sister very ill, because it's like, why is my sister coming here with no retinue, no great advance travel? Why have you been sent back like a beggar to Rome? And she tries to defend her husband, but Octavian knows he knows what's going on. This is really the beginning of war. He's sent my sister back in this way. He knows what's going on. He's not stupid. In Egypt, Antony and Cleopatra he's heard that Antony and Cleopatra are now he's crowned himself as ruler of the Eastern Empire with Cleopatra. So this is it. It's all out war between the pair of them. Okay. So, next we return to Egypt, and now Antony and Cleopatra, in spite of having spent the first half of the play almost entirely apart, are now back together again. So, back in Egypt, Antony and Cleopatra are making preparations for war to engage with Caesar. He gets called Caesar and Octavian. As he goes to war, he starts to be called more Caesar than Octavian. So they're preparing to go to war. His generals suggest going by land because engaging on land because Antony is very experienced as a general on land, but Cleopatra has boats. She has a navy at Alexandria that she wants to contribute something. Enobarbus and the other generals don't really want her there, but this is the defense of her country. She has a vested interest. If this goes badly, it's not just them who get in trouble. She has thrown her lot in with this Roman leader, not the other Roman leader. This is her country. Of course she wants to have a position in this. She defends her position in the war room. So it's not just the men in there. She has a stake in this. She's not sitting back to be defended as she had to at 17 with Caesar. She is a leader in her own right. She has ships. She has sailors. She has this. She wants to bring this. So, and Antony agrees to engage with Caesar by sea. And he tells Enobarbus to take up position to watch. What we then find is that the sea battle has gone badly. This is the Battle of Actium. The sea battle has gone badly. Cleopatra's boat fled and Antony's followed her. He followed her rather than engaging in battle. That was not her fault. He says it's her fault. He complains and bitches and moans of, you should have known that I would have followed you. But he made a choice. He made a choice. He followed her, and then the whole battle. Honestly, it's a way of by doing that. It's a way of saying, oh, well, we would have won the battle if this woman hadn't gone and not had the stomach for it. No, it was going to go badly, full stop, because Antony, not an admiral, not a sea warrior. Agrippa, yeah, very good at that, and Octavian has very much been, yes, I want you to engage them at sea because Antony is not good at sea. He doesn't have water legs. So, anyway, Antony is enraged at this and carries on. Cleopatra's kind of like, oh, shit. She's never seen him in defeat. She's seen him as victorious like this. She's not seen him in defeat. And this is a side of Antony that she has not seen and is a little bit freaked out by. Octavian gets a message from Antony, from his schoolmaster, which they think is funny because it's like, oh, wow, the mighty have fallen. Saying, may I live out as a private citizen in Athens and may Cleopatra continue to rule Egypt. Octavian does not accept this, but he thinks that maybe Cleopatra is frightened of Antony, and therefore he sends a messenger to her to say, look, you give us Antony, and we will give you whatever you ask for. You can make whatever promises you want to the messenger to get her to give them Antony. Because these are Romans. They kill their enemies. So in the court, Cleopatra receives the messenger from Octavian. And while she accepts the surrender to Octavian, because she's a queen, she has a country to deal with, she has this whole empire of her own. She has people. This will go bad. She has responsibilities. She loves Antony, but she has responsibilities. She has to think of those first, because yes, she's a woman, but she's also a ruler of a major political power. She's not an idiot. Because Octavian is under the impression that she is afraid of Antony, and therefore he thinks he's doing her a favor. And she's like, okay, yes, this might work for the moment, but I'm not 100%. She's not 100% certain that this is exactly what she should do. But she does know that she's thrown everything in with Antony, and therefore that was a bit risky. And things have been a bit dicey now. So, yes, she does accept the surrender. Antony comes in and is furious. He orders the messenger being taken out and whipped, and turns on Cleopatra, and she will have none of it. She's like, what do you think of me? What do you think of me? You think I'm that? You think I'm like that? You think so little of me. Huh. No. I am doing things because I have to protect not just me. I have to protect our children and the country. And if I didn't love you, I would not care if the gods rained down poison hail on everything here. If I didn't care about you, I would sacrifice all of that before I sacrifice you. And that placates him. He sends back the messenger with having been whipped with a message of defiance against Octavian. Octavian is really cranky to see his messenger come back whipped. This is not on. This is not good. Cleopatra and Antony decide that they are going to feast before the battle the next day, because Antony is still battling. Even if Cleopatra has managed to negotiate some sort of thing for her country, Antony is still at war. He is not given up yet. But Enobarbus decides this is foolish, and a lot of his other generals have decided this is foolish. This isn't going anywhere. This is getting silly. Because the thing about the Roman army is they will just, if you come back, they'll absorb you in. They don't actually have a whole lot of retribution against ordinary soldiers or generals like that, who are under a major commander like Antony. They just reabsorb them. They don't bother killing a whole lot of trained soldiers because they fought on the wrong side of the Civil War. Really interesting, that. Anyway, Enobarbus decides to defect to Octavian. During the feasting, Antony has a bit of a wobbly moment and starts talking to his generals about death and destruction and things that are really going to send morale down the toilet. Not what you do. Not what you do at all. And he is talked out of this by others, but it's deeply, it's like, morale's not good. Antony does not cope with defeat very well. Yes. The sentries outside hear strange music, and they take it to be Hercules, the god who protects Antony, leaving before Antony's final defeat in the morning. So even the gods are against him. It's not looking good for Antony. Antony, as he's preparing to dress for battle, Cleopatra is helping him put on his armor, is told that Enobarbus's tent is empty, that he has left during the night to go to Octavian, and that he's left all his treasure there. And Antony tells them to send his treasure after him. He doesn't blame him. He doesn't take his treasures. He just sends the treasures after him. And in Octavian's camp, Enobarbus is so overcome with remorse when he sees that his treasures have been returned to him that he cannot fight Antony. He cannot take his men out to fight against Antony, against this noble man that he has served for so long, and he goes off to, as he says, die in a ditch. He is so overwhelmed by this. So, adieu, Enobarb. Antony battles, and initially he is victorious. He's initially victorious, but Agrippa and Octavian come back and take the day. Antony is now defeated. He returns to Cleopatra, and he is just, he's not good. He's not good. And Cleopatra is so frightened of him that she hides in her monument. He is completely and utterly defeated. There is only one way out for him now. And he's, let's just say he's not coping like Brutus. But he's frightened Cleopatra so badly, she has decided to hide in her monument, in the tomb, because they're Egyptians and they've pre-made these things. So she's going to hide there with her ladies and send word to Antony that she's dead, because she wants to see what happens. But also she's really scared. She's really scared of him. She's like, hopes that maybe he'll calm down if he thinks she's dead. Cleopatra's messenger comes to Antony. Antony who is already, sort of trying to work out, okay, what next? Well, don't want to go led in triumph by Octavian, so don't want to surrender. Yeah, suicide. That's it, because these are Romans. That's what they do. It's not like, and this is why I say this is like Romeo and Juliet for grown-ups. It's not like Romeo and Juliet in terms of, they died for love. No, they were great lovers who were also great leaders. And there were cultural reasons that certain things happen, among which is defeated generals and not wanting to be dragged in chains behind the triumph in Rome, which is definitely what would happen if he's captured alive. So he wants to make sure he's not captured alive, because he would have done this to Brutus. He would have done this to Octavian if he were victorious. So he knows exactly what's in store for him, and he doesn't fancy being humiliated like that. Leader of the free world to slave in chains. Yeah, it's a bit of a drop. Better to die. So when he hears that Cleopatra is dead, it's like, okay, it's all over. And he gives his sword to his man Eros, saying, okay, when I made you a free man, I said that this was the thing, that this was the condition. I wanted you to do this to help me die at the end if I made you a free man. And Eros can't do this. Eros actually chooses to kill himself rather than kill Antony, which leaves Antony having to do this himself. Antony's killed a lot of people in his time. He's a soldier. But he somehow manages to bugger this up. And although he's very badly injured himself, he's not dead straight away. So that when Cleopatra's messenger comes to say, how did he take the word that I was dead? And this is Alexei, and badly, very, very badly. Antony asks that his men who've heard this come to carry him to the monument. One of the soldiers takes Antony's sword. Antony is carried to the monument, where he is hauled up by Cleopatra and her women. And they have a last farewell before Antony dies. he does tell her to trust among all of Octavian's men, Proculaus. So he tells her to trust Proculaus out of anyone. And then he dies. The soldier who took Antony's sword takes it to Octavian as proof that Antony is dead. Octavian now can be magnanimous and talk about how wonderful Antony was, something that he couldn't do while Antony was alive and dangerous to him. Very generous to the dead, aren't they? But he talks about what a great and how terrible it is that he's now dead, as if he hasn't been wanting him to be dead for the past hour and a half. 2 hours, I think it's about 2 hours at this point he's been wanting him dead. So it's not as if he hasn't been trying to make him dead, but he admires him not being taken alive, and that he has been true to his Roman ancestry in his death. Caesar then sends, right, now we have to deal with Cleopatra. He then sends Proculaus to Cleopatra to say, you know, we need to parley, we need to make a deal. She has already technically surrendered at this point, but she still has to make sure of what's going to happen. But Proculaus is not as trustworthy as he may seem, or as Antony thought he was. Cleopatra she knows that this is what the future holds. She knows she would be dragged in triumph, which is no less humiliating for a foreign leader than it is for a Roman general. She is the last of the Ptolemies. Well, she will be the last of the Ptolemies. She has children, but she is a Ptolemy. She is a queen of Egypt. She is not going to be dragged in Rome and watch boys peep her greatness. So although she listens to and agrees to meet with Caesar, she's already got a contingency planned out. Proculaus sends guards to capture, to hold Cleopatra and the ladies, but Dorabella, who's also been sent with Proculaus, takes pity on her and sends Proculaus, look, you go off and take the men with you. I'll stay here with the queen, and you tell Octavian that she is here and safe, and he can come and speak with her. And Dolabella tells her to, if you wanted whatever, he confirms what she fears, which is that she would be made a spectacle in the triumph, and that if you're going to do something, do it fast. Caesar comes in, Octavian, and Cleopatra and her ladies kneel down before him, and he is all very, no, I do not want this of you, and makes a great show of being polite and courteous, and she knows exactly what he's doing, because as soon as he leaves, she sits up. He mouths me, girls, he mouths me. Dolabella returns and says, yes, regardless of what Octavian has said to you, he's planning on leaving very soon and taking you after him. So if you're going to do something, do it now. She sends out her handmaidens, one to get her robes and to also bring in a countryman who has a basket of figs for her. He comes in and he has, there's a worm in here, a snake. there's a snake in here, and it's a snake of the Nile, and I've seen so many people die of this, and it's not to be trusted. I wouldn't even feed it. It's really dangerous. He's actually a really funny character. And she assures him, yes, I know exactly what to do with the snake. It will be fine. It will be fine. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Because she has been testing out on slaves painless ways to die. And the way that she has found that is universally said to be the least horrible way to die is to be bitten by a Nile serpent. So she's now acquired the snakes. Her ladies dress her in her robes. She sits and she takes the snake out of the basket and gone. Her ladies rearrange everything. Or actually, Iris is so overcome at the thought of her queen dying that she actually dies, which Cleopatra thinks is a little bit showy-goffy. But Charmian is made of stronger stuff. Charmian is there to the end. Charmian is the one who, once Cleopatra has died, makes sure that she's decent, closes her eyes. And when Proculaeus comes in, has picked up one of the snakes herself, and as she dies, when Proculaeus says, "Is this well done?" "Oh, yes. Yes, this is well done." Octavian comes in and finds 2 dead handmaids and the dead queen. He's able to give fine words now that his great enemies are defeated. Orders that Antony and Cleopatra be buried together, and goes on, not that we see it in this play, that goes on to become the Emperor Augustus, married to Livia, and quite possibly poisoned by her so that her son can become king or emperor. And Egypt will never again have another king. Egypt, because it is so rich, and so potential to be powerful, is forever only governed by somebody with the rank of equus, which is a fairly low title, because never again can Egypt rise up to challenge Rome. And that is Antony and Cleopatra, my favourite play. My absolute favourite play. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Next time I will bring you the Henry VI. I promise. I promise. I couldn't do them for my birthday, could I? So, until I see you again, bye-bye. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.